A little bit.
Good evening and welcome to the Westland Public Library. We are glad to see you all here tonight. We're also especially glad to welcome Jennifer Bird and Laszlo Slamovitz as they bring their Daily Bread portrait of homeless women and men of Lenawee County to the library through poetry and song. We also have had Lad Strayer's photographs in the library for the last 2 weeks, so we hope everybody's had a chance to view those. Unfortunately, we are taking those down tonight, but if you would like to see them again, you could also always talk to me at the library, and we can show you what he has online, which are some really great photos of some really great people. I don't have a whole lot more to say. I think the poetry and the music and the photos really speak for themselves. So I'd just like to welcome again Jennifer Bird and Laszlo Slamovitz. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. And we're really glad that you're interested in our program of words and music about issues of poverty and hunger and homelessness and community. Tonight I'll be reading from my book, Daily Bread, A Portrait of Homeless Men and Women of Lenawee County, Michigan. And the book gets its title from the Daily Bread of Lenawee Soup Kitchen, which is located down in Adrian. And it is illustrated with photographs by Lad Strayer. As Andy said, the photographs, some of them are distributed throughout the library on this floor right now. And if you've been in within the last couple of weeks and have had a chance to look at them and see the printed invitation to write something of your own on this subject, we'll have time at the end. If you've done so and would like to share something after we're done with our presentation, you can do that. And I'm also very excited that Laz is here and will be providing musical accompaniment to me as I read and also sing some songs that he's written. And he'll get us started.
And what I'll start with is a song with the words coming from interviews that Jennifer did with homeless people. And I took some of those words and set them to music. So this is all in their language. I'm on a long, lonely road. I'm on a crazy, long, lonesome, lonely road. Sometimes I go down to the railroad tracks, the tracks talk to me. Sometimes I go down to the railroad tracks, the tracks talk to me. I'm on a long, lonely road. I'm on a crazy, long, lonesome, lonely road. Nothing stays. As soon as you write the word bird, it flies off the doggone page. Oh, nothing stays. As soon as you write the word bird, it flies off the doggone page. I'm on a long, lonely road. I'm on a crazy, long, lonesome, lonely road. As I look out at the window at the ice-covered ducks, I wonder, with their ability to fly, why are they still here? You know, if I had wings, I'd have left long ago. If I had wings, I'd have left long ago. I'm already there, you know, but I'm kind of in between the stars. I'm already there, you know, but I'm kind of in between the stars. I'm on a long, lonely road. I'm on a crazy, long, lonesome, lonely road.
The first piece I'll be reading from the book is about a man named Steve North, who was an Air Force veteran, and he was in his 40s and living year-round in a tent in the woods when I met him. And he is someone who, he just lived 365 days a year outdoors, and had a kerosene heater in his tent to keep warm in the winter. And this piece is called Workday. In early spring, body warmth is still the next best thing to cash. And Steve hoards it under the layers of clothing he never takes off, even in the summer. Every so often, he arrives at the Daily Bread wearing a new outer layer, usually donated by a veterans organization. Inside, his skin slowly smothering. His elbows and knees, stiff with arthritis, make a frame on which to rest out on the soup kitchen steps after lunch for a smoke. Below, the borrowed grease and paint of another life splattered across the cracked toes of his new used charity work boots. A few others gather for a little conversation when he hears a train "There's our ride," he jokes. After a time, everyone drifts away like the plume from Steve's cigarette. Slowly, he lifts to his feet, prepares for canning, frisking the roads, alleyways, and dumpsters between the soup kitchen and his tent in the woods, looking for aluminum cans to redeem for nickels and dimes. "I got to go out and make money. I have no choice," Steve says. No one has a choice when it comes to that. I first met Steve at the Daily Bread Soup Kitchen, and I was there because I was working on an assignment as a reporter for the Daily Telegram newspaper. And that assignment came about because the staff photographer I most often worked with, Lad Strayer, had started going there out of his own interest to do art photography, which is something he always did on the side of whatever he was doing for the newspaper. He always had some project or other going. And he had gone there and found what he said were interesting faces. But he began to think that doing a story on the soup kitchen would be good for the newspaper. So he asked me if I'd be interested in doing the writing. And I thought that sounded interesting, so I went with him a few times and watched the noon meal being served and sat with people and introduced myself and got to know them a little bit. And then after a while, we brought up our idea to them of wanting to interview them, talk to them about their lives and some of the hardships that they were facing that had led them to need to come to the soup kitchen, and wondering whether they would be interested in telling the community about some of these things. And several people said they would be interested. I was surprised and pleased that some people did want to, though there were several who also didn't want to have anything at all to do with it. But we took our idea back to our editor, and he was really enthusiastic. He really loved the idea and developed a whole vision for what we would do, and ended up giving us more than 4 months to do the reporting for what would be a week's worth of coverage in the paper the following May. That was 2002. And so his idea was to have 2 to 3 stories per day running with covering different aspects of homelessness, different kinds of homelessness, interviews with different homeless people, some first-person stories from homeless people if possible, and we did get a couple of people writing their own story in their own words, and then interviews with social services agency staff. So we had this luxurious amount of time to work with compared to anything else we did for the paper, and a lot of ground to cover. So we really sunk ourselves into it and really found it very compelling. We were caught up in it immediately, and it was really life-changing because it shattered so many of our stereotypes, and we just learned so much. And one of the things that we learned was that in that area at that time, most of the people who were living outdoors year-round, or a substantial portion of the year, were military veterans, with one exception. So the next two pieces I'm going to read are about another veteran, and his name was David Hamilton. And these pieces are called Lost and Enough, and Laz will do David's voice for Lost. And these are pieces that we'll just read one right after the other. Lost. David's been staying with a friend who wants to find a tenant who can pay rent.
It's almost April. The weather's getting warmer, and I have a sleeping bag, David says.
He describes how, all in 1 year, he had 3 heart attacks and was hit by a car while walking down a road. Too weak to go back to work at the factory, he was told to find a sit-down job when he was turned down for government disability.
It's stupid to say something like that, David says. What if you don't know how to do a job sitting down?
He says he'll apply for benefits again.
Sometimes up to 6 months you've got to wait to find out. In the meantime, you're pretty much lost.
He's lost almost 20 pounds.
I know a lot of it is worrying all the time, and some of it is not being able to eat properly. I just want to get to the point where I don't have to worry about things.